I think that they'll do enough to win the game. I don't think it'll be easy at all. I think Southampton will be well prepared. Some of their lads will be the biggest game of their lives, and they'll play it like that, and I think that's United will have to be at the very best.
How does Jose Mourinho approach this game, and how important is it for him?
He's a trophy hunter. United are not going to win the league this season, so it looks like that, the cups are going to be the only way that they can win a trophy, and I think it's important for the confidence of the players, and that where they want to get to eventually is Champions League and Premier League titles, and this will be important stepping stones, and yeah, they have to win. That's the mentality they have to have going into the game.
Does it potentially a first trophy offer that route back to a silverware-laden era, shall we put it?
It definitely has done previously. It's done it with United, it's done it with Chelsea, it's done it with other clubs where they've gained confidence from it, and there's certainly one thing is certain: it won't do any harm. So the players on Sunday, it can damage them if they don't win. They're in the midst of a great run, but I do think they'll have enough to see it through.
So here we are, the EFL Cup final is almost upon us at Wembley Stadium this Sunday, live on Sky Sports. It will be Manchester United against Southampton. Danny Higginbottom is here with me to tell us all where the game will be won and lost.
Well, I think it's interesting, there's a couple of things, obviously. There could be injury doubts as well, the likes of Mkhitaryan, obviously having to go off during midweek, Carrick as well. So we're just basing it on what it could be. It could be a completely different team, and likewise with Southampton as well. So I think, first of all, if we look at Manchester United, the way they could go about things, what I think we've seen in recent weeks, we've seen Pogba playing a little bit of a deeper role. We're used to seeing him getting beyond Ibrahimovic and linking really well with him. But I think what's happened in recent games, we've seen Ibrahimovic. We know that he likes to drop off at times. And then we've got Juan Mata, OK, not the quickest, but will still look to get behind. Mkhitaryan, if he is fit, or a Lingard, or a Rashford, a Martial, they all look to get beyond Ibrahimovic. So Ibrahimovic dropping in that little bit deep. So obviously we put these players out of the way, put Ward-Prowse as well a little bit further, and Redmond. The problem that you now have is if Pogba is going to sit that little bit deeper, is that these players are going to want to try and get on him to make him think twice about trying to dictate play or play the longer balls. We saw some fantastic balls in the recent games that he's played in, getting the likes of Rashford in, getting the likes of Ibrahimovic in. Now, the problem is, when you're defending against that, if your front four push high, it means that the rest of the team have got to push high. It means that Romeo's going to have to go up there, and then in turn, it's a domino effect, so that means that the back four are going to have to push up high as well. So all of a sudden, if Pogba's getting on the ball and they're trying to stop him, all of a sudden Southampton could find themselves playing quite a high line. Now, we talked about Ibrahimovic dropping deep, but when you've got players like Mkhitaryan, like Martial, even Mata will get in beyond, or your Lingards or your Rashfords, there will be spaces in behind here if Manchester United can do it right. Because Ibrahimovic will drag the opposition back four up. The players will want to get closer to Pogba so he can't dictate the play. And this is where your runners, whether it be a Martial, whether it be Martial, whether it be, if he is fit, Mkhitaryan, even Ibrahimovic, we've seen him do it a few times, and Mata as well. And they know that Pogba, when he gets on the ball, he can, without question, find that passes we've seen in recent games. Now, another player who I think's been a real unsung hero for Manchester United this season has been Valencia. I think the way he patrols the right-hand side, he's been absolutely outstanding, because whether he's got Juan Mata in front of him or Mkhitaryan, as he's had at times, both of them players want to go narrow. They want to go narrow and join in with Ibrahimovic. So once again, we bring the players up here. Martial keeps more of his width on the left-hand side, so therefore Blint just will back him up. Herrera and Pogba. And then what you'll find is that the back four will near enough all stay in the line apart from Valencia. Because what Valencia does, as well as playing right back, he plays right wing. Now, Redmond will probably be engaged in there. If not, then he's going to have to follow Valencia. Now, Bertrand at left back has a real problem, because if it's Mata that's playing there, what does Bertrand do? Does he go in here with him, or does he stay out wide? More often than not, you will see that fullbacks will tend to actually follow the man. They'll follow the man in there because they're worried about Juan Mata getting on the ball, dictating play, maybe playing a through ball for the other forward-thinking players. Therefore, that leaves then huge space for Valencia to get into, which he will do all afternoon. We've seen him this season. The amount of assists that he's had has been vital for Manchester United, patrolling that whole right-hand side defensively and attacking-wise. Now, we've had a look at Manchester United now, so let's just have a quick look at Southampton and how they might go about things. So we've talked about Valencia being a real strength for Manchester United, getting down this right-hand side. Southampton could turn that into a negative and make it a positive for themselves. Because what we've seen, Gabbiadini, Southampton, not renowned for being, you know, big goal scorers. Gabbiadini's come in and I think he's got 3 goals in 2 games. What he does, and he does it very well, he will play on the shoulder. And I think what we'll see is that Manchester United will have a lot of possession. I think Southampton, if they can, will probably look to play quite deep. And I think then what Southampton will be hoping is that there is space in behind this back 4 of Manchester United. Now, we've spoken about the back 4. We've spoken about 3 of the back 4, you know, playing quite safe defensively. We've talked about Valencia getting forward. Now, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Southampton looked at it and said, right, OK, when we win the ball back, make sure Gabbiadini takes up this position, because this is where the space is going to be. And as I've said before, centre-backs do not want to go outside the width of that 18-yard box. So there really could be a lot of spaces here for him to get into. We talked about the other 3 defenders will play quite deep. I don't think that's a problem. I think they will do that. But there will be spaces down this side for Gabbiadini to get into. So they will look to turn a positive for Manchester United. Southampton will look to try and turn that into a negative on the turnover. So that's an interesting battle that I'm really looking forward to seeing, because Gabbiadini, like I say, his movement is very, very good. He just plays right on the offside line, and more often than not, he does get in, as we saw for his first goal for Southampton against West Ham. Now, one of the problems that Southampton do have defensively, we've always looked at them defensively, they've been a very strong team. For a few seasons, they had Font and Van Dijk. Absolutely brilliant, the way they communicated, the way they dealt with things with each other. But what I've seen with Stevens and Yoshida in recent games, like I say, once again, we're talking about the defensive side of things, so we move these players out of the way. Romeo will be here, because we know how strong he is defensively. What I've seen in recent games for Southampton is that the gap between the 2 centre-backs is huge. There's such a big gap between them. And if Manchester United time the runs right, I think that they can get in behind the 2 centre-backs, even through the middle of them. So Ibrahimovic, his movement is very, very good. So what he'll probably do, he'll probably say, OK, I'm just going to stay in this area. Then you've got your willing runners, like we said, whether it be Mkhitaryan, whether it be Martial, Mata, Rashford, Lingard. What he will do, he'll just drop this little bit deeper here. Romeo, obviously, is going to have a job on his hands here. If the 2 centre-backs remain that distance apart, then there's going to be so much space in behind or down or in between the 2 of them, for the likes of Mkhitaryan, for Martial, Mata, or like I say, whoever's playing in there, to get in there. And that's going to be key, that these 2 communicate better than they have done in recent weeks. West Ham scored a simplistic goal against them. Andy Carroll was in between the 2 of them. It was a simple pass through them, and they were just split in half. They were completely open, and Andy Carroll did the rest and put the ball into the back of the net. So now, obviously talking about them, when we talk about them, you have to talk about Romeo. I think he's a real unsung hero for Southampton. I think he's one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. Now, if we look at Southampton and we say that Yoshida and Stevens are going to play quite far apart, it's going to be so important with Ibrahimovic there, with the likes of Mkhitaryan, Mata and Martial. It's going to be so important that the communication between Stevens, Yoshida and Romeo is top class. Because what they've got to do, the last thing Stevens and Yoshida want to do if they are going to play that far apart, is go up here like that, because that leaves an even greater space in behind. So what they've got to do is keep their position and make sure when Ibrahimovic goes into this area, Romeo is right on top of him. And because, like I say, he does the dirty work which lets other players try and express themselves going forward, and he's going to be a key player in this. So for me, there's a lot of tactical battles that will unfold during the game at the weekend, and you know, I do fancy Manchester United to win it, but you just never know on the day.
OK. Tactical insight, fascinating from Danny. Don't forget, the EFL Cup final, Manchester United against Southampton, is live for you this Sunday.
The SPI tells us Manchester United a 75% favourite to bring home the League Cup over Southampton. Let's assume that they win the League Cup against Southampton. What else do they have to do this season for Mourinho to honestly claim it as a success?
Get in the Champions League.
That's it? Either way? Top 4 Europa?
Europa League or the league position. I suppose if they were to pick up the League Cup and the FA Cup and they've got a big game against Chelsea and that, then he would paint that, and the club might paint that as some sort of forward thinking. But I think United, the size of that club globally, and there's been reports recently how much money they're making, really have to be in the forefront of big club football, and that's the Champions League.
It was just unfortunate that they had a bit of a ropey September, October. They didn't perform particularly well. I think that's mainly because Mourinho, when he came in, had so much to do with that squad. When he started to work out the players, when he was getting Mata in and getting Mkhitaryan in when he was fit, and then Pogba, Carrick, and then Herrera. I think Herrera has been absolutely key there. And of course, with Zlatan scoring goals, I never ever saw that coming. He has been absolutely phenomenal for Manchester United. I'm staggered at the level that he's played at and the number of games he's played.
Manchester United has to be in the Champions League because they sell themselves as one of the biggest clubs in the world, and the history and everything, that the magic of Old Trafford and all these other stories that we hear about Manchester United. If that's the truth, they have to be playing at the highest level, and in club football, highest level is Champions League.
All right, so let's get predictions. Craig, what do you think for the League Cup final?
I think they'll be too strong for Southampton.
Manchester United.
Yep, 3-1.
3-1.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, Southampton will score.
All right.
Oh, well, that's slight consolation.
Solid.
Well, you've got to give them something, Kruggy lad.